Good morning.
Morning.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sean Brady, and I work at CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network.
Sean, can you tell us a little bit about your career?
Okay, I'm called an audio post-production engineer, and what I do is we take audio and video files, we'll make a video. What I do is I add music and sound effects, and I clean up the audio that's already been recorded in the field. So if people have mouth noises or ticks, or if there's pops, airplanes flying overhead, we just try to clean it all up, make it sound really good for television.
How long has this been your career?
Well, it's a long journey. I'm 58, and I would say it started, out of college, but I really started when I was 15. But I did get my first job right out of college when I was 22.
Why did you choose this career?
Okay, so back in fourth grade, I was a drummer in the band in school, and I was in bands, in the school bands. Then I started to get into bands that, were not part of the school, like wedding bands and rock and roll bands. And then I thought, well, what are you going to do for a career for your job? And I didn't think I was good enough to be a professional musician. I didn't think I wanted to be, but I still wanted to be like in the industry. So my drum teacher told me I should go to college and get a major in audio recording, and that way I would have a normal job, what you consider a normal job, working 40 hours a week, but still be working in the industry. And that's what I did, and it worked out for me.
Great. Can you describe a typical day in your profession?
Well, a typical day is you look at the calendar and you got 4 or 5 projects. I just did 3 this morning already. They're about 5-minute videos, and like I talked about earlier, I get the audio files given to me and I operate on them. I do EQ, compression, processing, limiting. I add reverb, delay, all these effects. I clean up the bad part. Maybe right now as I'm talking, I may be generating, mouth noises, and in editing, you just take those out, kind of erase them in the computer. We add music, add sound effects. Sometimes I have to go into VO booth and stand in front of the microphone and record something that needs to be said, because we didn't have that when they recorded the project in the beginning. So, we need grunts or sneezes or a cough or a laugh, or sometimes I have to say a line like, I was walking down the street and the dog bit me. And while they were doing that, a car was driving by and you couldn't hear what was recorded, or a plane flew overhead, you couldn't hear it. So we do it later in post. And I do that for every project.
That's great. And you said you were 15 when you started working towards this, or when you were interested in this? You said you were 15?
Well, when I was 15 is when I started performing in public for pay as a drummer in a band. Okay, so I started coming at it from the musician side. After college, I got a job at Walt Disney World in Orlando doing the audio for the live productions, where you set up the drum set and you mic the drum set and the band, the rest of the band, the keyboards and the brass and everything, and you mix, a live show, a live production. Well, I had been a drummer for 8 years, and so I kind of knew, what that was all about. But now I'm not a drummer. I'm the audio guy. You can't put the microphone here because the drummer's kind of hit the microphone, but you still have to, put the microphone on the drum set. So, yeah, it started when I was 15, playing in a big band, playing the 40s music, the Glenn Miller, In the Mood stuff. That's where I started. But then, of course, I got into rock and roll a little bit, and that's when it started and how it started.
Awesome. So exactly what kind of school did you have to go to, or what kind of training do you have to take to complete for your career?
Okay. So I went to a college called the Berklee College of Music. They're located in Boston. There is another Berklee school, but that's on California on the West Coast. But the East Coast Berklee is music. And they had an audio recording major. You could be a music teacher, you could be a composer and an arranger, all different types of jobs that are in this, musical industry. And it was a very good school. One of the classes that I took was very cool. It was actually 3 classes in one, and you would have writers that would write music, musicians that would play the music, and the engineers that would record the music. Okay, and this was in early 80s, like 1980 to 83 is when I was in college. So, you know, Michael Jackson was big, and Michael McDonald, Doobie Brothers, all those groups, and everybody wanted to aspire to be at that level and, you know, have that fame and fortune. So all those 3 disciplines, everybody was working their best to see if they could make a record that would sound like, you know, Michael Jackson's Thriller album. I mean, that was the goal. That was the standard. You know, how good can you get? So the writers were writing music, the players were playing it the best they could, and back in the day, in the 80s, you know, the people like me, the audio people, were trying to use the techniques of audio to record it and make the best record that we could.
So in order to be successful in your profession that you're in right now, you have to have music skills or traits. What kind of traits or skills do you need?
You need education. Some people can get it without going to college. They're just gifted. They can pick up a computer, laptop, and the software and a microphone, and they understand it. A lot of people have friends. Maybe the guy's got, you know, some parents with some money. They have a garage, and they buy them equipment, and the band record the band in the garage. A lot of people do it that way. But nowadays, you know, there's a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of colleges. There's schools. There's different ways to get the information that you need. But whatever you do in life, you're going to need education. So, I mean, but even after, I've been out of college now for like 35 years. I read all the time, and with the internet, I mean, I can find tutorials, books, a lot of stuff for free. There's always connections, people. So you got to get education to be good in your career field, at your job.
What is your favorite thing about your career?
My favorite thing is that I get to be creative. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just cut and dry. We're going to just put music in, and the voice was really pretty good to begin with. You don't have to do a lot to it. But sometimes music editing is challenging. They need to make, you know, a 35-second piece of music fit into a 30-second commercial, and you have to edit it so that the music's on the beat, you know, and it sounds like it was purposely written that way, but it really wasn't. Sometimes the music has singing or a guitar part that, you know, the producer doesn't like, and he's like, take the guitar part out. So we have to lift out, you know, the 8 bars where the guitar, and, you know, loop the drum part and loop the groove. So you get to be creative. Sound effects, that's fun when you get to be creative in my job.
Awesome. What are some challenges that you encounter sometimes in your career?
Dealing with people. Sometimes there's deadlines. Sometimes there's people that are short-tempered, people that don't have an understanding and an education, and they ask you to do things that are impossible. And they think that, well, in today's, you know, day and age, we can just snap our fingers and magically, you know, make it happen. Well, we're not quite there yet. There is a lot of magic that can be done in the computer. But people, another one would be if it's a challenging project that might be over my head. I'm like, this is really, you know, pushing me to my limits. And it's challenging to, you know, overcome those moments in your job where, like, you know, you have to get this the best that you can. And for one reason or another, it's just difficult to get there. Great.
Awesome. And one last question.
Yeah.
How much can someone in your career expect to make?
Okay, 1984, I started working on my, you know, out of college. I was making $18,000 in my first job, but that was in 1984. I think today you could probably start at maybe around 35 or 40, and really the sky's the limit. If depending on who you're working for, there are companies that will pay a lot. Government jobs will pay a lot. You can make 80 or 90. If you go freelance and you have the right clients that have money and you're good, you could charge $100 an hour or maybe more, maybe a little bit more, maybe 50. So it all just depends on how good you are, what the market will pay. The government jobs pay more than civilian jobs, but money's good, but you'll be happier if you love your job and money's not the issue. But the money's out there if you know where to find it.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.